This week, I will be reading two of my most anticipated romance novels, and both of them happen to be new releases from the same exact day this month. Hi friends and readers, we are back. We are so back. I haven't been filming for the last week or two because my camera broke and I sent it off for repair and it just came back today. So that means I can finally start these two books that I've been waiting to start for the last week and a half. Also, we've just passed daylight savings, so I can finally film a clip after work. I've been filming clips all on my lunch break for the most part and during the day on weekends, but now it is Thursday after work and you can see there's still light out and we are here filming this clip. So we are back. I am just so excited for this week. I have been anticipating reading these books. Both of them came out on Tuesday, March 3rd. They're in the romance category and they're both new releases. So all of the anticipation, I hope it all leads up to a good week of reading. The first one, of course, is a debut novel by Haley Pham, and then the second one, I believe, is the third novel by Cara Bastone. We're gonna start out with Haley Pham's book. I've already started it a little bit. We're only a few pages in, chapter 5, page 38. So I'm gonna read a little bit longer before I give any thoughts or predictions or summaries about this book. I will go ahead and start off by saying these are anticipated reads for me. I have found this year, we're only into the third month of the year, that romance has not been largely what I've picked up for the year, at least not like it had been for me last year and the year before. I would have been a self-proclaimed romance reader, but more often than not, I'm having a better time and I'm more often picking up literary fiction, historical fiction, and I've come back to romance as a filler book in between books like that, or to sort of just get me through the week, some fluff, some coziness. I never pick up romance books thinking that they are going to be the emotional reads that I need or the life-changing story. I pick them up because I want to have a little bit of fun. I want to feel a little bit more mindless from the day-to-day, my 40-hour work week, and that's exactly what we need this week. With all that being said, I will catch you a little bit later once I have read a little bit more of Haley Pham's debut novel and tell you my thoughts. Hello. It is now Friday around 6 p.m. I did go to in-person work today, but I wanted to provide you my first update on reading anticipated releases, new releases, romance, and we are starting with a bang, and that is Just Friends by Haley Pham. I read yesterday after work, and then I listened to it on Spotify Premium because it is on there for audiobooks on my way to work and on my way home from work, and also a little bit on my lunch break at work. All that to say, we have tackled nearly half of this book already, if not over halfway. Don't have really what feels like that much left. I'm really liking the length of this romance novel. We are on chapter 15, page 168. I also like the cover art for the new chapters. Every time you get to a new chapter, you have this cover art. And I have always been drawn to books, paperback books with the cover art on the new chapter. It just makes me feel accomplished for some reason when I flip to a new chapter page and that's there. I'm like, oh, I made it, another chapter down. And it is really just a very cute, summery vibe feeling book with all of the artwork in here. So Just Friends by Haley Pham is a debut novel. And if you're like me and you are in the bookish world, and especially if you're creating, then you've probably come across Haley Pham. Her reading vlogs and even her vlogs before she ever touched book content, I have been following along for years, and especially in the last probably 3 years, the bookish content, she has been an inspiration of mine to just pick up the camera and start doing bookish content. So knowing that and then seeing across the last few years her journey of writing her first novel, I thought, yeah, I'll be reading that because it's just an opportunity to be a part of someone's journey as a writer and an author, and then also someone that you've already been involved by watching their content. I think that's very cool to be a part of the process in that way, even though I have never met Haley Pham and have never even come close to meeting Haley Pham. All I will say before I give any reviews or talk about this book and how I'm feeling about it is that I could never come close to ever writing a book, so I try to keep that in mind anytime I talk about any author's piece of work, because I am not an author and I could never write a book or be this creative in this type of space, and instead I am just talking to you about reading a book. This book is not dual point of view, but dual timelines, if you call it that. Basically, we have a present day timeline and then we have a historic or past timeline between our two characters, but in the point of view of our main character, whose name is Blair. We are following Blair, our main character, who has come back to Seabrook, California. We know that she was childhood best friends with one of our other main characters, Declan. So we are getting their past timeline, a few chapters of them when they were in high school, when they were best friends and then became more. And then we flash to present day where we know that some sort of accident has happened that has torn them apart. They haven't talked in I think like 4 years, but we don't know what that accident was. And I am 168 pages in and I quite frankly am not sure if I know what the accident is yet. There has been a heated conversation in their past timeline, but I don't know if that's the thing. I can't imagine it is. It's definitely not. Still more to learn about what tore them apart and why they haven't talked in so long. But our main character, Blair, is back in Seabrook, California after moving away for college. She is there to help her mom and her great aunt Lottie, who has some health issues. And in that area, you can tell that our author, Haley, is writing and moving through grief. There is grief in this story, and that part is a little heavy. To work through that, our character Blair is going to pick up a part-time job at the local coffee shop, which of course, you guessed it, Declan is the manager of. So we're in this dual timeline where we're learning about who they were as friends in high school. They were pretty young, and then in the present timeline, which I still think they're pretty young. I feel like our character just said she's 22, and to me that's quite young. You don't see a lot of marketed as adult romances with 22-year-olds. At least I don't think I see that a lot. I myself am 24 and it's feeling a little bit young or reading a little bit young. I did have to look this up to see if it was marketed as young adult, but I think it's just an adult romance. The high school timeline makes it a little bit more naive and young feeling though, but hey, we are young and naive in high school. So we are just going to keep trudging along for the rest of this book. I'll probably update you once I finished it. I will say so far I'm not deeply connecting with the characters, but I'm having the time that I would expect to have in a summer romance book like this, although it's not feeling very summery just yet. So we'll see if it picks up any summery. Am I calling it summer romance when it's not even summer romance? Okay, who said summer? I don't know, did I make that up? Anyways, it's second chance romance, childhood best friends. Hopefully I can find a little bit more of a connection with Blair and Declan as we learn a little bit more about what tore them apart and how their future will make sense now that Blair is temporarily back in her hometown with him. The final thing I'll add is that I wanted to pick up this book and it was very anticipated. I meant to say this earlier, was that I had watched a video by Haley Pham years ago where she recommended Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. And in fact, I pulled this off my bookshelf on top of that book for a reason, and that's because I picked up Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter off of Haley's video suggestion a long time ago. It was one of those books that got me back into reading. I read it on a cruise when I graduated college, the same time that I read Happy Place by Emily Henry, and it was just such a fond memory of connecting with that book, and I think it's so full circle to see now that Haley has published her own novel. So I'll let you know how I feel when I finish this book and where we're at with Just Friends. Hello. It is now Sunday, so I don't even know what Sunday around 2:53 p.m. and I have finished Just Friends by Haley Pham. You'll notice I'm holding a mic now, and that is because I thought my camera was fixed. It is not. I'm still having problems with it, so I'm going to have to send it back out, which I'm so sad about. But we do have our phone camera. It'll have to do, and a mic this time. I felt like last time I recorded on my phone when my camera broke, I didn't like the quality and it's a lot harder to, I don't know, not see yourself. It's so nice having a camera, but we're gonna persevere with our phone the rest of this video because we are excited about what we're reading this week and we want to keep reading, so no setbacks. We're gonna do this. Hopefully the mic is working. I have no clue. But my updates on Just Friends by Haley Pham, having finished it now, I'm gonna go ahead and start with my star rating, and that is going to be a 3 stars. I know. Let's explain why it's a 3 stars. I was really trying not to look internet, see other people's reviews, because I just know that when a content creator like Haley Pham puts out their first or debut novel, people are going to have things to say, whether that's really good or really bad. And I wanted to come into this without feeling those biases, however you say it, and hoping that they wouldn't sway how I was feeling about the book, knowing my book preferences and wanting to give this one a go. I'm going to put it down now so I can talk into my mic. We're going to rate it a 3 stars, and things that I liked about this book. I thought it was a very easy read, and I think Haley did a good job of incorporating grief into a romance novel to show you how some people might grieve differently when they lose a loved one in more than one way. And I do think if I had this little paperback book during the springtime outside enjoying the sun, the fresh air, I would have had a really good time and maybe could have rated it higher than a 3 star. Now, all the things that I do see people complain about, like the synonyms and the sentence structure and the plot, that is not something that I'm going to complain about. I never pick up on that type of stuff. I don't see overly too many synonyms. That's just not something I care about. I am picking up a romance novel, like I said before, to have some fun, to have an easy read, and to enjoy myself. And I also think that it's so cool to read a book and be able to have a different experience than maybe your best friend or someone in your friend group or even a coworker have a different experience than they do, simply because you have different life experiences that you can try to connect to from this author. I do see a little bit of Haley based off of what I've seen in her videos in this book, and I think that's really fun as well. Something that I got to connect to that I bookmarked is their friendships that are talked about. Our main character, Blair, has these 2 college best friends, and we get to see their friendships and how the life cycle of a friendship can change, especially once you've left college and you aren't in that sacred space of living with your best friends. They were in apartment 302 and they had the apartment 302 group chat, which was a crazy pull for me because my apartment that I grew up with my best friends in college was 302, and we for the longest time had a group chat called C302, which was our apartment building. So that was fun to be able to connect to and bring back to my own life. And then the other parts that I saw of Haley in this is that our character Blair, part of coming back to herself is writing a book and finishing a romance novel and asking the people she loves around her to support her and help her write this novel. And the ending of this book kind of loops into, hey, how do you end a book? Talking about her, Blair, in the story, but it's also Haley writing the book and ending the book. So I thought that was a fun little way to incorporate her real life into this. And then just the reasons why it wasn't a 4 or 5 star, I think are really just personal reading preference. I am someone who does not gravitate to young adults and young adult romance, especially this book did sort of read like young adult. There was no spice and it was more closed door, or maybe not even closed door, just no spice really it felt. And that's not to say that a romance book needs spice. That's just a personal preference of mine to not really gravitate towards young adult anymore. Maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, certainly. And so if you're someone who likes young adult romance and doesn't want spice in their book, this might be a 4 or 5 star for you. Anyways, we have knocked off another new release, which means we get to start our second one, which I am so glad I saved for second and am happy to finish off this reading week with. With it being Sunday afternoon, I'm going to start it and then I'll update you tomorrow on Monday how we're feeling about the next new release, anticipated romance novel. Talk to you then. Hello. It is now Monday. I am off of work and I wanted to come in with an update on this new release that I have been anticipating for weeks and weeks, and that is No Matter What by Cara Bastone. I read a little bit before bed last night after finishing Haley's book, and then I read or listened to it on my way to work this morning using Spotify Premium hours, listened to it on my way home from work, read a little bit on my breaks at work today, and then a little bit after work today. And with all of that reading and listening, we have actually made it a great chunk of the way in. We're 150 pages in, which feels like about halfway through this book, and I feel really good about it. Honestly, reading a book like this one back to back to Haley Pham's debut novel makes me understand why I rated Haley's a 3-star, because I'm 150 pages into this and I'm just so giddy about the relationship we're exploring in here and already feeling like it's going to be a 4 or 5-star for me. Now, Cara Bastone, I think I said earlier in this video this is her 3rd novel. That is not the case. I opened up this book and saw that she has written actually a good bit besides the 3 that are probably just most popular and more bestsellers now. The one that I knew Cara Bastone from, and the reason why this was anticipated new release for me, is Ready or Not. I picked up Ready or Not by this author in Brooklyn at the Robotis bookstore because that book was based in Brooklyn. I got a signed copy. The cover of that book was just so pretty, and I knew that it was the following trope. I'll write it out right here in case you don't want to hear me say what trope that is. I had read a similar trope to this and thought that I would give it a second go because I had a really good time with the first book that was about this by a whole different author who we'll actually talk about here in a second. So I gave Ready or Not a go, rated it a 4-star. I didn't think that I would like that trope at all and ended up really enjoying it. So when I finished that story, I knew she was going to be on my list of authors to keep an eye out for new releases, and here we are. In the meantime, I heard all of these booktubers and people in the book world raving also about Promise Me Sunshine, and I put Promise Me Sunshine on my TBR back a few months ago, probably last year during the springtime, and it wasn't for a few weeks ago that I found out that it's also by Cara Bastone. So I've got to get my hands on Promise Me Sunshine to read. I don't know what I've been doing this whole time, not reading it. I read the first book by her probably about a year ago now, so I've just been waiting when this whole time I had a book I could have been picking up by this author. And now we'll start out by saying that so far, No Matter What is really what I wished I would have gotten out of Hannah Bonham Young's Out of the Woods. So we're going to kind of pair together Hannah Bonham Young's books and now Cara Bastone because of the tropes and sort of how they are following similar ideas. Hannah Bonham Young's book that was my first unplanned pregnancy trope was Out on a Limb. Gave it a 4-star, loved it, and that's why I picked up Cara Bastone's Ready or Not. So then Hannah Bonham Young came out with a book called Out of the Woods, and it fell short for me. It wasn't my favorite of Hannah Bonham Young's comparative to her first one that I read, Out on a Limb, and the Out of the Woods story was about a couple that was already together and they were re-exploring their relationship after falling apart. And that, in fact, is what's happening in No Matter What. But I am feeling 10 times better about this book than Out of the Woods, and I hate comparing them because that's not fair. But when you write about similar things and it's one of the only stories that I've read that has that idea of two people already being together in the romance genre, then I'm gonna naturally compare them a little. Can't blame a girl. And so now that leads me to what is this book, No Matter What, even about? We are following Ross and Vin, and from the back of the story, which honestly I had not read the summary before picking it up, and I actually enjoyed that I didn't know where it was going to go initially. I caught on, but we're following Ross and Vin, and they are a married couple of 8 years. They live in Manhattan, and Vin has recently told his wife that he is going to be moving out. He signed a lease for a few months out, and so now we have this impending date on our minds. Why is he moving out? What happened between them? They've been married for 8 years and are best friends, but suddenly everything seems cold. They're not talking to each other, they're not seeing each other, they're sleeping in different rooms, and there has been a traumatic accident. This accident happened about a year ago. We don't really know much about the accident or big details. We just know that it's really heavy on our main characters, Ross and Ben, and it's part of the reason that they have been slowly separating from one another. Why this book is so good is because the author is doing such a good job at showing us why they're separated, but also showing us all these small little intimate details of their relationship over the last 8 years, and then also making it lighthearted by their comedic quips between each other, between their best friends, friends in all of their conversations with people out and about in Manhattan. So there is a layer of heaviness and real life in this story, but there's also something to be giddy about. As Ross and Vin discover each other and why they're separating and how they might be able to come back to each other, we're also following Ross's kind of side plot where she has joined a drawing/painting class every Friday night, and this has been so fun to hear about. Part of this drawing class is her having to draw people and models who are in the nude, and when she feels like she needs more practice, she's trying to search for practice, and I think that's going to land on her husband Vin despite their separation. So I'm going to keep reading tonight. I honestly, at the pace that I'm reading currently, will probably finish in the next day. Probably update you once I have finished the story. Depending on what the third act conflict is going to be, I do think that we are writing miscommunication in a way that is easy to read. They're already addressing why they're not communicating well and how they can fix it, and that I think is going to allow me to rate this a 4 or 5 star when all is said and done, but I'll keep you updated once I finished and where we land. I'm really excited. Yes. This book, no matter what, no matter what, by Cara Stone. This is a good book about people who are married. A good book, a great book, a 5-star book about people who are married. I will say this is book 1 of 2 that I have read in the romance genre about a married couple finding themselves again. And this one knocked it out of the park. Before I get on with all my thoughts and feelings about this book, please let me know if there are other books out there about married couples that replicate or give the same energy that this one does, because I want to read it. Another quick sidebar, I have my Olivia merch on because Are We Sing? The Purple Walls is changing pink. Olivia Rodrigo, 3rd album coming out. Please. That is all I need right now to have an Olivia Rodrigo summer. Wow. What a good week. So far, we are 2 for 2 for Cara Stone. We gave her first book that I read a 4-star, and we're giving this one a 5-star. I finished the book and I just couldn't think of reasons why I might not like it until 5-star it is. I am obsessed with Vin. I thought from the beginning, as we learned about their relationship and them separating and didn't know much, I thought that Vin was a little intimidating, and is this book going to be solely them just not communicating? And then I did a complete 180 and really fell in love with Vin's character and his story and how he evolves across the book. And then of course Ross, I love her dialogue and how we get into her head with how she loves her partner even though they are separated and trying to find one another again. And Cara Stone does such a good job in this story of writing those small intimate details of a relationship. How you can memorize the sound of the bed when your partner climbs into it at night. And now suddenly when you're not sleeping in the same room, that squeaky sound of the mattress is gone. Those are the small bits of this book that really make you fall in love with the characters and what they're going through. And I do think that this book is a great representation of PTSD and trauma. So I wouldn't say that this is a happy-go-lucky rom-com for the summer or the springtime. This is very much sad girl summer. My cats are fighting because they are starving. It's 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night and they would like to eat, but I'm busy doing this. Sorry about that. I don't even know where I was at. It is not a rom-com happy-go-lucky. It is sad girl summer. There is a lot of grief and trauma and PTSD in the story, but it's written in a way that feels real. It feels like you've taken these 2 characters and watched a movie about their lives, and that includes having a bad accident and separating from one another and trying to figure out, can we piece back the puzzle? Can we be together? Did you guys hear that? Cue me losing all thought because of my cats. Having that frame of mind that this book is not just all of the pretty pieces of life and that these 2 people have to go through some miscommunication, I think that this type of book with miscommunication is way different than your happy rom-com third act miscommunication, and because of that, I can rate it a 5-star and just really enjoy their characters. And no epilogue. Ugh, if it can wrap up in the final chapter without an epilogue, that's what I love to see. It means the author brought you along the whole way and not just the last 2 pages. Oh yeah, I had tabbed something that I really liked and wanted to talk about. Cara Bastone adds a fresh way of changing up the plot with a specific format that she uses in this story. We do have one point of view, and that is Ross throughout the story. However, the author does add an element that flashes you into someone else's point of view. You just don't know who. And I think that those stories added such a good perspective that helped wrap up the book in the end. And I really enjoyed that aspect. And for a romance book, this is like the perfect length. Just over 300 pages, I think about 312 pages. I don't know. Ideally, I want to pick up books like these. So that is all for my reading vlog this week, reading my anticipated releases. We did not fall short on these, and I'm so glad that I read them back to back. It honestly confirms my thoughts on where my reading is headed. And while romance may not be my favorite genre anymore, it is still a comfort genre of mine, and I had a great time. However, we're not done with the new releases. I am excited for books by Liz Ford, and we have some other romances coming out. I believe Abby Jimenez soon. So the new releases are not done just yet. I will catch you in the next video, and until then, that's all. Bye for now.